Okay, moving on to Yepa. What's up, Yepa? So I'm going to pass the mic over to Yepa in a second, but first off, I can't say enough how much I appreciate Yepa coming on. I literally called him, I think, yesterday or something, and you know, we got him in here, and Yepa, I think you and I had dinner like 2 months ago or something. It's been quite a different world since. Yepa is coming in from Berlin. So let me try to describe Yepa, and I think his bio is probably up there, so you should all check it out. But besides being a great guy, Yepa is an artist and a conceptual artist who I think ends up improving so many places through his sculptural installations, and he also does a lot of you know, gallery art as well. But I have seen his work has recently been at, you know, Brooklyn Bridge Park. I don't know if you guys have seen that in the audience, but it was a very, I think, impactful installation. He was also recently at Central Park in New York, the UN recently, I think related to climate change. I got a chance to see his work, which you'll see in a moment, at the Giardini in the most recent Venice Biennale. And also I wanted to note that I think in 2016, I visited his work in, was it World's End? World's End, which is outside of Boston, which you guys may have seen. I think we'll show some pictures. And that's maybe something that those of you, many of you are on the line now from Boston may have remembered. And really quick, I think that Yepa, yeah, his work, hey Yepa, his work to me, I think is, there's this minimalism to it. There's this super high degree of materiality and engineering, yet it's also super inviting to children and the community, and it's interactive and experiential, and as you'll see, I think it reflects his own vision of himself, and I just think it's really great work, and so important to the idea of placemaking, because it really is magnetic and draws people in and with the best intention. So I'll pass it off to Yepa. And I don't.
So power of the art, I think, has been discussing at the moment recently on the internet, on the culture scene, because what art can do. Just imagine at the moment, if we have an art, if we have music, if we have books, if we have poets, no music, no film and things like that. All this time we're using for that is kind of getting us inspiration. And I think we need a lot of inspiration right now in our life, how to proceed next level and get inspired by how to change ourselves in a way. And life, for me, is about art. I think my art is about communication and dialogue. So here you see Venice Biennale area, some benches. I'm working with the soft aspect of benches. How do you use benches in the public space? How do you interact with each other? How do you play them? Where do you install them? Where do you want to have benches in your public spaces or in your private spaces around? It's very political devised and a very political placement. Some different benches here, a funny build of one and me and one of an actor. It was a project with Public Art Fund in New York some years ago, where I installed it at Brooklyn Bridge Park, a very long, I think 10, 12 benches and other things. So what can benches do in the public space, and how can you make a line with the benches in a way to create dialogue? In New York, and I'm also working a lot with mirrors. What is mirror? Mirror is kind of reflecting the surrounding in you. It's somehow opening up you as a person. You look yourself, you're looking through the mirror, see other people, reflecting the surroundings. A small smile, I got a t-shirt on to say, a smile for you. A small smile can change a lot of things in the world, although it's for free, but we can give it much more out. So the mirror is somehow reflecting the surrounding. In the back loop, you see the financial district. That's why the mirrors here in Brooklyn Bridge Park are at different heights. You can see it was like 3 rings of mirrors you can go into. Here's the piece from Boston. Very, very beautiful location out in the nature. So it's actually just reflecting the nature, different heights, another circle. And stars and night, just to see how much they adopt. And snow, a very big installation. I did work with mirrors and water in Norway, in Kistefoss, a very big sculpture park. Actually, this piece was installed some years ago, and normally they have 25,000 visitors at this sculpture park. And that moment, that year, they had 60,000 people that's increased, that the restaurant has to make double size and double much food, the park place has to change. So like an odd piece, and it's actually stay that right now. Bjarke Ingels just made a very big famous building called the Twist over the Elb just right behind us. Just to show you how I work with mirrors, but also again water. Water is the dragging material which I'm working a lot with. Here is like increased from the water from the Elb, from the river. But again, water is how to say, a material which is dragging us in. But I'm using it for like architecture. So this is in Stockholm on a square. So it's like it's interactive, different rooms. The water go down. You can go into the water. You're surrounded by water. You have people coming into you. Some people springing, jumping directly through. Here you have a square which I did recently in December in West Palm, a little bit north of Miami, and I got invited to do the square and the whole square of monument, of the design of the stone as well. And then when you start the water, you see again it's increasing the whole square, the restaurants, the real estate, everything around is flowering because there is so much attention. Everyone is coming there and being part of that. And this was just at night, but it's with light on, so you see somehow what water and of course art can do in a collaboration with landscape and of course different business. Then I do some balloons, and there was just a photo of a funny guy, which some of you maybe know. And so I do some balloons which are hanging, sometimes they're hanging in the ceiling. Here this was an art fair, I didn't have another better image at the moment, but I'm installing it right now. I'm working right now on a project in Copenhagen on a small metro station where since years they hang 2 balloons, and now I'm installing 10 more. So somehow increasing, you can be hanging in the foyer or at the home, and they are moving a little bit if there's coming a wind, but they're not falling down, of course, but they have different situations. I'm working a lot with mirror, as I said, and here the 303 gallery is called Sun and Moon. It's like 3 meters big, it's very big, it's like perforated stainless steel. There's a light behind, and it's creating the reflection, inviting the public and the viewer into themselves, and the whole, I would say, the whole mirror changing very slowly. And on the other side, there's another one. So there's one, this is the moon, with a bluish color, and you see the reflection on the floor, but it's somehow adopting the whole space and the surrounding, especially the audience. Some project I'm working on for next year, which is coming up. This is like a project for Denmark. I'm working with like wayfinding. This is the train station and a bus station. And you have to go like a couple of kilometers, 20 minutes to go to the museum. So I have made these 30 lamps of a little bit like crazy lightning in a way to follow. So you can see the light when you're coming to the bus station, and you go and you know where to go. So you're finding, you see where the lights are, and you're going towards through different, I would say, social housing, I would say, and you're finding a way to come to the museum. I'm installing this one very soon, up very high in the north. It's called Lofoten. It's in Norway, and it's like almost up at the highest point in Norway. It's a very beautiful place, and there's a small city, and they really like to have a marking for the city and for the tourism. The much more tourists coming by, and this is the piece called Eye of the North, and it's like a perforated mirror. It's concave and convex. So it's also on the backside mirror, and you can go up and you can look out, and you will see the in the mirror. Of course, at the start, you will see the northern light in winter. Then I'm talking very fast, but then here there's a project which we're also working right now on. If you look on the top of the building to the right, which is made from Kobe Architect from Denmark. This is Denmark. It's a very big steel ball, and this is somehow there's underneath there's a metro station, and there's a food court, and there is some really like some apartments. And on top of that ball, it's a very bigger than mirror ball, and it's moving very slowly. So it's balancing. It's called balance of time, and it's a little bit like showing where are we right now in this kind of time. We're balancing through of the world right now, trying to find or to grab on something, and I think we need to rethink a lot of things. And I know that a lot of people are suffering, but a lot of things also flowering. Right now is spring, and I think will change and grow, and we will all find a solution. Although we need to find new paths, and this ball is then driving very slowly on top of this, I would say, platform on top of the apartment. And in 1 hour, it's driving around the whole building. So at 12, it's starting on the middle of the corner, And actually downstairs there is a subway station called the Circle Line, and it's also, I think, it's also driving in a circle. So it's kind of an idea that this driving underneath under the earth in Copenhagen, and this one will drive on top of a building. And if after 30 minutes it will be on the other side, then the people living on the courtyard on the other side, they will be able to see the piece as well. So it's not just for the people outside, the building is also people inside the building. So in general, I get invitation, I work with a lot of people, I work with Public Art Fund for some commissions, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but you will very soon see something very big in New York, which we have been announced already. And I'm very excited about it. We're installing right now in the airport of LaGuardia. But we are working a lot with inviting with architects, big architects, for instance, or Coop Architect and Koolhaas and stuff like that. Like architects invite me to try to sometime to solve a problem, which was this one. This one was actually the architect came after that, and the mayor said, normally we have towers of the building. What do we bring up there? And they was like, what are we doing? And they asked me somehow to get an idea. And sometimes we work really closely, and sometimes we're opening up like for a square, for museum, or for galleries. So it's very, very different how we work. I have a studio, 25 people helping me to combine that. We have a yoga, we have a cook cooking every day, but not at the moment, unfortunately. Now we have somehow house. So I'm doing these mirror boxes. As you can see, it's a mirror box. You look inside in the mirror, I have a neon text in it. That was also, I do a lot of my own process of the world. So I'm not trying to teach any one of you something at all, but of course I try to inspire you. Art is about inspiration, and so if I can't change the world, which I think I can with the art we are doing, but then I have to change myself. And in the process, the last 10 years, where I had complicating situation with too much work, blah, 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 so I needed to go inwards, I found out that this is what I can do. I can change myself.
Yeah, but I mean, that's great. And I was going to ask you a question about that. As you were talking and showing those pieces, I was thinking about how artists, especially sculptors who present larger works, are often there's a message there. I don't have the quote, but I remember reading somewhere that Rothko, and by the way, the Rothko Chapel is another amazing example of public art. But I remember him saying something like, I want my artwork to be in front of someone at the dinner table and make them feel uncomfortable. I want it to be almost like imposing. And I think about, Jeff Koons, and I think it's the tulips that he sort of donated to France, and he had an intention there, and that created a lot of dialogue and about, I think that was with respect to the Bataclan, and there's just like often a message behind what the artist is saying, and I think that what the artist is producing. And I guess, you are very open about your own personal kind of journey, and I'm wondering how that's, just as a quick question, you kind of alluded to it, but how it's reflected in the art. So you have these minimalist mirror sculptures, which again, I think the paradox is that they are sort of rigid minimalists, high grade steel, but then they become this sort of hospitality enterprise. So how does that reflect, as a final question to you? And I do want to get to the COVID things. A lot of people are chatting that up, so I'm gonna get right to that. But how does sort of your story reflect itself somehow in the message that you're putting forth in your work? Maybe you've already said it, but maybe I could ask.
Art, I think in all kind of art, we are trying all to tell stories or tell something and try to inspire the world with something. And I think that one of the big inspirations you can get is actually to go inwards, but also to look in yourself, to look in the mirror, to see who you are, because a lot of the people we are in the world, we don't know who we are. So if you start to, that's the first thing, we have to love ourselves, otherwise you can't love someone else. And this is what I'm working a lot on. But I think that reflecting, for instance, is reflecting, like it's just a word, but reflecting also the surroundings. And how do you interact with the surroundings in your life? And I think that what I said before, a smile can do a big change. And in my opinion and in my life, I needed to rethink in a way, the way I was doing my art, the way I was like looking at people and blaming people and blaming my wife or my kids or whatever, but finding out that I can't blame anyone else. And the art is kind of a tool for that. The art is kind of a tool for me to communicate my feelings, of course, also, and also trying to inspire the world to breathe, like the Breathe With Me project in Central Park at the United Nations headquarters, but also just to experience a bench to sit there. And so this is quite funny to see this very strange space, and certainly someone coming next to you. And because the bench is going like this, you slide together and you're sitting very close to each other, which is of course very strange because of this interactivity. So I think art can connect us. Art can change situations, which it does. When art is, I would say, going into a dialogue, directly dialogue, it's not all art, I think, in that. But if you're working, I think, with interactivity, which I'm very, very, very interested in, how you interact with the art. If you work with that, it can change areas, it can change buildings, it can change atmospheres, and it can change cities. I have water pavilions in different cities, which the city changed in the dynamic of, I would almost say, love, because I think that we need to create more empathy and love in the world. And I think this is what art can also do.
So on that note,
actually, Michael, could I just sort of jump in? I really appreciate seeing Jeppe's work, because I think it brings a different scale to the placemaking conversation than something that I'm able to bring. When I think about placemaking, I think about those broad policy and sort of social goals and how to create the scaffolding for that with our private sector partners. We think, does this neighborhood lack public space? Does it lack affordable housing? Does it lack commercial space? And that's sort of just one scale. It's a neighborhood or maybe city scale. But then we want to create that scaffolding so artists like Jeppe can actually have a venue to put some of that art in there, or maybe the local retailers can bring their sort of unique flavor to the wares that they're selling, because that's all more of the placemaking story. That's maybe more on the everyday of the experience. So I really appreciate having sort of Jeppe's work in there. That's all sort of on the same goal of placemaking, but different scales. And it's really interesting to see how it plays out.
And it's a differentiator within the space, right? It creates that reason to go and to experience and to be part of something. It's not just a building. It's a much deeper experience. Yeah.